Howdy, everybody. Mr. Neff here. Apologies, I've been sick. I'm still sick. I probably sound terrible, but we're going to go through a quick little simple game in Replit, and I want you to follow along and do your best to match what I'm doing. So the goal here is to create a little simple game where you choose an option and then the game decides what happens with that option. So in this case, we're going to be looking at something really simple, a looping game where you choose to basically one of three possible answers on something. And the game will then decide each time through what happens, and then at the end, you'll know if you won or lost. So we're going to have a fight game. It's all going to be text-based. And so this might take a little bit. So we're going to work through. We're going to go ahead and get namespace standard set up just like normal. Now, I would like to walk you through some basic stuff. Now, the very first thing we want to do in any given game is set up whatever variables that we're going to need. And in this one, we really only need a couple of things. So we need health for each side, right? So we're going to do two integers. We'll say player health, and we'll say computer health. Okay. And we're going to set both of these. We're actually going to go ahead and give them a value right away. And we're going to say each of us starts with 100 health. We could add to this game and maybe set it to different difficulty levels, like, you know, if you wanted to have a computer with only 50 health, one with 100 and one with 150, that could be an option. So we've set two values, a player health and a computer health that are both integers. And our goal, let me get out of the way so you can see my whole screen a little more easily. Our goal is for our game to play until either the player runs out of health or the computer runs out of health. So we're going to create what's called a while loop. Okay? And a while loop just means we're going to make something happen until the thing that we are doing is no longer true. Okay? So what we're doing in this case is saying, hey, while one of two things is true, right? Because there are actually two possibilities here. Either player health is greater than 0, okay? Or we need to have while computer health is greater than 0. Now, an or clause or an or statement is our way of saying one of these needs to be true. But we need to set it up so that basically so that the system knows that if either one is not true, that it stops. Okay. Or actually, in this case, we want to use and. We want both to be true. We want to keep going while both sides have a health greater than 0. If either one stops being true, then we want the game to end. Now, this is just a double and symbol. That is what's known as an ampersand, for those that are not aware. And that's saying that this has to be true and this has to be true. As soon as either one is false, this whole loop, everything from our starting bracket to our ending bracket, is going to stop happening. Now, at this point, we need to have our basic loop. This is our gameplay loop, or our core loop. Go through and have the user be able to pick one of a couple of options. Okay. Now, we will go back and add more to this as we go. What we want is the basics right now. We'll add instructions. We'll add, do you want to play another game? We'll do all of those things later. But right now, what I want to focus on is just the basic gameplay loop. So here's what has to happen. First, we need to set up let's do an integer, and we'll call it action. Okay. And the action integer, and it doesn't have to be an integer. I'm just using that because it's easier than ABC. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask the player what they want to do. Then, once we've asked them what they want to do, they're going to give us a number, 1, 2, or 3, and we will then resolve what happens. So, we need a very simple output of, do you wish to, let's say, how do I want to set this up? Aggressive stance. Balanced stance. Or counter stance. Okay, so we're going to ask them basically to pick one of 3 options. And in this case, all I'm saying is I'm going to give them choices of what they're going to do. And then based on the answer they give me, different things are going to happen. Now, I'm going to do, because I think it will look better, that, and that. And I just want to make sure nothing crashes yet. It's going to get stuck. It's going to keep doing this, right? But it seems to work, at least. Okay? So we've got aggressive stance. So I got a space here, and I don't have spaces on the others, so I want to clean that up because it'll look better. Okay. So far, I have an output that just repeats. And as you saw, it just repeats over and over and over again forever. Okay. And then we also need a new line there. No, we don't, because we're going to do our input here. So, next step. We want to get an input from the user. We want to know what are they doing? Right? We want to know what input they want to give us here. And so we're going to say action. Okay? They're going to input an action. 1, 2, or 3. Now, we're going to treat this kind of like paper, rock, scissors. Okay? So they're going to give us an action. And depending on which thing we get, we want something to happen. Okay? And this is going to take a minute to set up. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, if you choose aggressive stance and they choose aggressive stance, you both take a small amount of damage. If you choose aggressive stance and they choose balanced stance, you do a lot of damage. If you choose aggressive stance and they choose counter stance, you take a lot of damage. Okay? So kind of like paper, rock, scissors with a little bit of nuance to it. Okay? But to set that up, we need what are called conditional statements. So these are going to be basically a set of if statements where we compare things And then we decide what happens, okay? So in addition to this, I'm eventually going to need a computer answer. And we'll get to that, but I don't want to jump into that quite yet because I don't want to just go on because there's a lot here, okay? So basically what we need to do is set up a series of if statements, and they look something like this. Kind of like our while loop. We say if, and then we open our parentheses and we put a condition. So if action, and for now what we're going to do is a really simple, if action equals 1, okay, we want something to happen. But it's not just if action equals 1, right? If my action is aggressive stance, and the computer picks an aggressive stance as well, that's one thing. If my action is aggressive stance and they choose balanced stance, that's another thing. If my action is aggressive stance and theirs is counter stance, that's a third thing. That gives us a total of 9 possibilities, right? Because we can have a 1-1, a 1-2, a 1-3, a 2-1, a 2-2, a 2-3, a 3-1, a 3-2, and a 3-3. Okay? So I need to set up, and for now, I'm going to do comp action, and I'm going to set it equal to 2. The computer is going to default to balanced. Okay? Now, just like we did with our while statement, I'm going to set up. Now, you'll notice I'm using 2 equal signs here. Okay? What I'm saying is, if this is the same as this, okay, that just means the same as or equal to. Whereas normally when we use an equal sign, we're saying store this information in this place, right? This number 2 is going to be stored in this variable. Now, in addition to an if, I can do what's called an else if. And this just means here's another option. And I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to say 2 for the comp action. And then I'm going to get real lazy. And I'm going to start copy and pasting. Okay. So I'm going to do this. And I said I needed 9. I need 1 more. Okay. Now, I obviously need to clean these up a little bit. So 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, 3-1, 3-2, and 3-3. Okay? So these are all the possible options. My stance plus their stance, right? Now, from there, I've got all this structure. Now I need to fill in what happens in each case. And so to make it simple, I'm going to do everything as either 1, 5, or 10. Okay? That'll just make things easy. So if I pick aggressive and they pick aggressive, we both take a little bit of damage. So I'm going to say player health minus equals 1 damage. Okay. I'm going to do the exact same thing with computer health. And so with this minus equals, what I'm doing is saying computer health now equals computer health minus 1. So 100 minus 1, make that 99. Okay? And I'm not even going to mess too much. Like, I'll get to the outputs here in a minute. But each of my statements is going to have something like this. I got to stop pressing caps lock and start pressing tab, and that will really make a difference. Okay? Because no matter what I do, there's going to be some kind of health change. Now, that health change might wind up being 0, and that's fine. I can always change the number to 0. But for now, I'm just copy and pasting all of this in. Okay? So, what do I want to happen? Let's say if we both do aggressive stance, let's make this 5. Okay? If I do aggressive... Oh, no, I did that wrong. This should be 5. If I do aggressive and they do balanced, I should take no damage, and they should take 10. And if they do counter and I do aggressive, I should take 10, and they should take 0. Okay? So I'm just picking random numbers. It doesn't really matter. These are just possibilities. Okay? Then I'm going to say... let's see. So if I do balanced and they do aggressive, and I want to try and make it match up, right? So if I do balanced and they do aggressive, I take 10 damage, and they take 0. If we both do balanced, we each take 1, because I'm going to say it's not very... Or no, counter stance would both be 1. So this would be 5 each, just like the other one. And then if I do balanced and they do... and see, now I'm getting confused on my numbers, so I got to go back and check. Okay, so this one was we both do balanced. This one is I do balanced and they do counter. So if I do balanced and they do counter, I take none and they take 10. Because we hadn't done that one yet. All right, and then the last one, if I use counter and they use aggressive, I take no damage and they take 10. If I use counter and they use balanced, I take 10 and they take 0. And if we both use balanced, we each take 1 because balanced stance is... Or we both use counter stance. Neither of us is really attacking, so we both take 1. Cool. So what I have here is a set of conditions that say, depending on the action taken by me and the other person, something should happen. Okay? Now, for right now, the computer's action is dictated as always on balanced stance. Okay? So for now, there's no change there. Now, regardless of what happens, I want to know what my health is and what their health is after each round of combat, right? So I'm going to do an output, and I'm going to say, hey, player health is now, and then I'm going to output player health, and then I'm going to output a new line. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the computer health. I'm going to say computer health is now comp health. Okay. Did I mess that up? It was computer health. Okay, so what this should do after each round is show me their health and my health. So let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so do you wish to use aggressive stance, balanced stance, counter stance? I'm going to do balanced stance. Notice what happened. Both of the health dropped by 5. because we both used balanced stance. I'm going to use counter stance. Oh no, that was the wrong one. I took 10 damage and they took none. I'm going to use aggressive stance. Hey! And now I can do some mix of these. And you can see the numbers changing. And once computer health gets to 0, it breaks. And the game is over. Now, that ends the loop. I'm going to do one more if statement. Let's see. If player health equals 0, I'm going to say you lose. And then I'm going to say else. Now, an else statement is what happens the rest of the time. And so it doesn't need a condition. Okay? So in this case, all I'm doing is saying, hey, either I win or I lose, right? Those are the only real options here. And when I get to those options, I want to know, did I win or did I lose? So I'm going to run it again. And I'm going to just lose real quick. You lose. Okay? And if I run it again and go the other way, I win. Okay? That is a simple game loop. It's not a ton of code. It looks like a lot, but most of what I did was, copy and paste. So it's nothing special. It's just a simple loop. Now, we're going to stop here on this video, and I'm going to have you create this that you see here. Okay? And when you're done creating this, I want your screenshot, and you're going to drop it in for me. And you'll notice I'm leaving the whole screen up here so you can see it and compare it to yours. And then we're going to go back. So make sure you save this. Don't just, create it and be done. Give it a name. Make sure you save it. Because we're going to come back to this. And we're going to add to it, right? This is really basic right now. The computer always chooses the same action no matter what. And I can go through and change that each time. But later on, we're going to learn about adding like randomized actions and things like that we will add to this so that each time you're kind of guessing as to what the computer is going to do. We're not doing that yet, but we will get there. So get this done, get it turned in, and save it so we can come back to it later. All right. Good luck.